On Patience by Tertullian, Part 2. Chapter 7. The Causes of Impatience and their Correspondent Precepts. Now, however, while we run through the causes of impatience, all the other precepts also will answer in their own places. If our spirit is aroused by the loss of property, it is admonished by the Lord's Scriptures in almost every place to a contemning of the world. Nor is there any more powerful exhortation to contempt of money submitted to us than that the Lord himself is found amid no riches. He always justifies the poor and forecondemns the rich. So he foreministered to patience loss, and to opulence contempt as to portion, demonstrating by means of his own repudiation of riches that hurts done to them also are not to be much regarded. Of that therefore which we have not the smallest need to seek after, because the Lord did not seek after it either, we ought to endure without heart-sickness the cutting down or taking away. Covetousness, the Spirit of the Lord has through the Apostle pronounced a root of all evils. Let us not interpret that covetousness as consisting merely in the concupiscence of what is another's. For even what seems ours is another's. For nothing is ours, since all things are God's, whose also we ourselves are. And so, if, when suffering from a loss, we feel impatient, grieving for what is lost from what is not our own, we shall be detected as bordering on covetousness. We seek what is another's when we ill brook losing what is another's. He who is greatly stirred with impatience of a loss does, by giving things earthly the precedence over things heavenly, sin directly against God. For the spirit which he has received from the Lord he greatly shocks for the sake of a worldly matter. Willingly, therefore, let us lose things earthly, let us keep things heavenly. Perish the whole world, so that I may make patience my gain. In truth, I know not whether he who has not made up his mind to endure with constancy the loss of somewhat of his, either by theft or else by force, or else even by carelessness, would himself readily or heartily lay hand on his own property in the cause of almsgiving. For who that endures not at all to be cut by another would himself draw the sword on his own body? Patience in losses is an exercise in bestowing and communicating. Who fears not to lose finds it not irksome to give. Else how will one, when he has 2 coats, give the one of them to the naked, unless he be a man likewise to offer to one who takes away his coat his cloak as well? How shall we fashion to us friends from mammon, if we love it so much as not to put up with its loss? We shall perish together with the lost mammon. Why do we find here what is our business to lose? To exhibit impatience at all losses is the Gentiles' business, who give money the precedence perhaps over their soul. For so they do when in their cupidities of lucre they encounter the gainful perils of commerce on the sea. When for money's sake, even in the forum, there is nothing which damnation itself would fear which they hesitate to essay. When they hire themselves for sport and the camp, when after the manner of wild beasts they play the bandit along the highway. But us, according to the diversity by which we are distinguished from them, it becomes to lay down not our soul for money, but money for our soul, whether spontaneously in bestowing or patiently in losing. Chapter 8. Of patience under personal violence and malediction. We who carry about our very soul, our very body, exposed in this world to injury from all, and exhibit patience under that injury, shall we be hurt at the loss of less important things? Far from a servant of Christ be such a defilement as that the patience which has been prepared for greater temptations, should forsake him in frivolous ones. If one attempt to provoke you by manual violence, the admonition of the Lord is at hand. To him, he says, who smites you on the face, turn the other cheek likewise. Let outrageousness be wearied out by your patience. Whatever that blow may be, conjoined with pain and contumely, it shall receive a heavier one from the Lord. You wound that outrageous one more by enduring, for he will be beaten by him for whose sake you endure. If the tongue's bitterness break out in malediction or reproach, look back at the saying, "When they curse you, rejoice." The Lord himself was cursed in the eyes of the law, and yet is he the only blessed one. Let us servants, therefore, then follow our Lord closely and be cursed patiently, that we may be able to be blessed. If I hear with too little equanimity some wanton or wicked word uttered against me, I must of necessity either myself retaliate the bitterness, or else I shall be racked with mute impatience. When then, on being cursed, I hit out with my tongue, how shall I be found to have followed the doctrine of the Lord, in which it has been delivered that a man is defiled not by the defilements of vessels, but by the things which are sent out from his mouth? Again, it is said that impeachment awaits us for every vain and heedless word. It follows that from whatever the Lord keeps us, the same he admonishes us to bear patiently from another. I will add somewhat touching the pleasure of patience. For every injury, whether inflicted by tongue or hand, when it has lighted upon patience, will be dismissed with the same fate as some weapon launched against and blunted on a rock of most steadfast hardness. For it will wholly fall, then and there, with bootless and fruitless labor, and sometimes will recoil and spend its rage on him who sent it out, with retorted impetus. No doubt the reason why anyone hurts you is that you may be pained, because the hurter's enjoyment consists of the pain of the hurt. When then you have upset his enjoyment by not being pained, he must needs be pained by the loss of his enjoyment. Then you not only go unhurt away, which even alone is enough for you, but gratified in the bargain by your adversary's disappointment, and revenged by his pain. This is the utility and pleasure of patience. Chapter 9. Of patience under bereavement. Not even that species of impatience under the loss of our dear ones is excused, where some assertion of a right to grief acts the patron of it. For the consideration of the Apostle's declaration must be set before us, who says, "Be not overwhelmed with sadness at the falling asleep of anyone," just as the nations are who are without hope. And justly. Or, believing the resurrection of Christ, we believe also in our own, for whose sake he both died and rose again. Since then there is certainty as to the resurrection of the dead, grief for death is needless, and impatience of grief is needless. For why should you grieve if you believe that your loved one has not perished? Why should you bear impatiently the temporary withdrawal of him whom you believe will return? That which you think to be death is departure. He who goes before us is not to be lamented, though by all means to be longed for. That longing must also be tempered with patience. For why should you bear without moderation the fact that one is gone away whom you will presently follow? Besides, impatience in matters of this kind bodes ill for our hope, and is a dealing insincerely with the faith. And we wound Christ when we do not accept with equanimity the summoning out of this world of any by him, as if they were to be pitied. I desire, says the Apostle, to be now received, and to be with Christ. how far better a desire does he exhibit! If then we grieve impatiently over such as have attained the desire of Christians, we show unwillingness ourselves to desire it. Chapter 10. There is, too, another chief spur of impatience, the lust of revenge, dealing with the business either of glory or else of malice. But glory, on the one hand, is everywhere vain, and malice, on the other, is always odious to the Lord. In this case, indeed, most of all, when being provoked by a neighbor's malice, it constitutes itself superior in following out revenge, and by paying wickedness doubles that which has once been done. Revenge, in the estimation of error, seems a solace of pain. In the estimation of truth, on the contrary, it is convicted of malignity. For what difference is there between provoker and provoked, except that the former is detected as prior in evil-doing, but the latter as posterior? Yet each stands impeached of hurting a man in the eye of the Lord, who both prohibits and condemns every wickedness. In evil-doing there is no account taken of order, nor does place separate what similarity conjoins. And the precept is absolute that evil is not to be repaid with evil. Like deed involves like merit. How shall we observe that principle, if in our loathing we will not loathe revenge? What honor, moreover, shall we be offering to the Lord God if we arrogate to ourselves the arbitrament of vengeance? We are corrupt, earthen vessels. With our own servant boys, if they assume to themselves the right of vengeance on their fellow servants, we are gravely offended, while such as make us the offering of their patience, we not only approve as mindful of humility, of servitude, affectionately jealous of the right of their Lord's honor, but we make them an ampler satisfaction than they would have pre-exacted for themselves. Is there any risk of a different result in the case of a Lord so just in estimating, so potent in executing? Why, then, do we believe him a judge, if not an avenger too? This he promises that he will be to us in return, saying, "Vengeance belongs to me, and I will avenge." That is, leave patience to me, and I will reward patience. For when he says, "Judge not, lest you be judged," does he not require patience? For who will refrain from judging another, but he who shall be patient in not revenging himself? Who judges in order to pardon? And if he shall pardon, still he has taken care to indulge the impatience of a judger, and he has taken away the honor of the one judge, that is, God. How many mischances had impatience of this kind been wont to run into! How oft has it repented of its revenge! How oft has its vehemence been found worse than the causes which led to it! Inasmuch as nothing undertaken with impatience can be effected without impetuosity. Nothing done with impetuosity fails either to stumble, or else to fall altogether, or else to vanish headlong. Moreover, if you avenge yourself too slightly, you will be mad. If too amply, you will have to bear the burden. What have I to do with vengeance, the measure of which, through impatience of pain, I am unable to regulate? Whereas, if I shall repose on patience, I shall not feel pain. If I shall not feel pain, I shall not desire to revenge myself. Chapter 11. Further reasons for practicing patience, its connection with the Beatitudes. After this principal material causes of impatience, registered to the best of our ability, why should we wander out of our way among the rest? What are found at home, what abroad? Wide and diffusive is the evil one's operation, hurling manifold irritations of our spirit, and sometimes trifling ones, sometimes very great. But the trifling ones you may contemn for their very littleness. To the very great ones you may yield in regard to their overpoweringness. Where the injury is less, there is no necessity for impatience. But where the injury is greater, there more necessary is the remedy for the injury, patience. Let us strive, therefore, to endure the inflictions of the evil one, that the counter-zeal of our equanimity may mock the zeal of the foe. If, however, we ourselves, either by imprudence or else voluntarily, draw upon ourselves anything, let us meet with equal patience what we have to blame ourselves for. Moreover, if we believe that some inflictions are sent on us by the Lord, to whom should we more exhibit patience than to the Lord? Nay, he teaches us to give thanks and rejoice over and above at being thought worthy of divine chastisement. Whom I love, says he, I chasten. O blessed servant, on whose amendment the Lord is intent, with whom he deigns to be wroth, whom he does not deceive by dissembling his reproofs. On every side, therefore, we are bound to the duty of exercising patience, from whatever quarter, either by our own errors or else by the snares of the evil one. We incur the Lord's reproofs. Of that duty great is the reward, namely, happiness. For whom but the patient has the Lord called happy, in saying, Blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of the heavens? No one assuredly is poor in spirit, except he be humble. Well, who is humble except he be patient? For no one can abase himself without patience, in the first instance, to bear the act of abasement. Blessed, says he, are the weepers and the mourners. Who, without patience, is tolerant of such unhappinesses? And so to such consolation and laughter are promised. Blessed are the gentle. Under this term, surely the impatient cannot possibly be classed. Again, when he marks the peacemakers with the same title of felicity, and names them sons of God, pray, have the impatient any affinity with peace? Even a fool may perceive that. When, however, he says, Rejoice and exult, as often as they shall curse and persecute you, for very great is your reward in heaven. Of course it is not the impatience of exaltation that he makes that promise, because no one will exult in adversities unless he have first learnt to contemn them. No one will contemn them unless he have learnt to practice patience. End of chapter 11.